Hello and welcome to UzReport World News, and my name is Bahram Gaffarov. The international rating agency S&P has raised Uzbekistan's outlook to stable, but maintained their rating as a level of BB-. In June last year, the S&P had downgraded the credit ratings of 21 countries, changing the forward-looking indicators of 13 countries, including Uzbekistan, to negative.
The decision was made against the background of relatively high growth of Uzbekistan's external debt over the past 2 years. At the same time, it was reported that the credit rating of Uzbekistan may decrease if the growth of the country's external debt does not stabilize over the next 12 months. Following the conference calls held earlier in May, the credit committee of the S&P has decided to raise the rating outlook of the country for the following reasons. According to S&P, in 2020, Uzbekistan was one of the few countries in the world that achieved economic growth. The agency forecasts Uzbekistan's economy to grow by 4.8% in 2021, with the service sector becoming the main driver of growth. The growth of external debt has slowed and short-term fiscal and external risks have decreased. The agency positively assessed the establishment of the annual limit of the state external debt and the maximum amount of the state debt. Uzbekistan's fiscal position in 2020-2021 has improved relative to S&P expectations. The high price of gold in 2020 led to a lower than expected total budget deficit in support of government revenue and the external balance. The report notes that Uzbekistan's external balance sheet ended better than expected in 2020. According to the agency, at the end of 2020, the liquid assets of the public and financial sectors exceeded the total amount of external debt.
Russian State Development Corporation, Web.rf, has agreed to co-finance the project initiated by Uzbekistan Railways. In cooperation with the National Bank of Uzbekistan, it aims to help the railway company in the procurement of 7 electric trains and 2 rail buses manufactured by Demikovsky Machine Building Plant and Metro Wagon Mass.
To finance the $65.8 million project, the parties plan to involve the structural divisions of the Russian Export Center Group. Web.rf inked €14.2 million and $77.5 million loan agreements with Uzbekistan in 2020. Within these projects, it aims to supply 5 modern mainline electric locomotives and road utility equipment of Russian production. Within the framework of bilateral cooperation, the Russian company over the past years has financed 5 projects in the field of hydropower, heat power, transport and urban infrastructure development for a total of €206 million.
Cyprus company Ferkensko Management Limited has signed 2 bilateral cooperation agreements with Gazprom Bank to finance the construction of a plant to produce complex mineral fertilizers based on ammonia in Yangiyer and a chemical complex to produce complex fertilizers in the Samarkand region of Uzbekistan. The agreements establish a framework for potential future cooperation between the parties with respect to financing of the project.
The ammonia project is already underway with site surveys completed in late 2020. In March 2021, a cooperation agreement was signed with Hokimiyat of the Sirdarya region. Negotiations are currently underway with the Swiss chemical and fertilizer company Casale SA for the technological part of the project. Once complete, the $350 million plant will produce 495,000 tons of ammonia annually. The chemical complex project would also introduce modern technology and create additional production capacity to increase yields of highly efficient complex fertilizers. Upon commissioning, it would annually produce 900,000 tons of complex mineral fertilizers.
One of the world's largest electric grid companies, Russia's Roseti, inked agreement with the National Electric Grids of Uzbekistan. The corporation aims at developing the country's power grid complexes, raising investment, implementing digital technologies. The document was signed at the recent St. Petersburg International Economic Forum by Director General of Roseti, Andrei Rumen, and Chair of Uzbek National Electric Grids Board, Dadajon Isakulov. The Russian company is planning to study pilot projects in Uzbekistan in a bid to improve the reliability of electricity supply to consumers and transit of power to one of the largest thermal power plants in the Republic. Roseti and National Electric Grids of Uzbekistan previously signed an agreement on strategic cooperation in October 2020. The projects cover the field of construction and modernization of the network infrastructure of Uzbekistan, with the introduction of advanced technological solutions. This year, Uzbekistan is experiencing extreme heat, with temperature in some regions reaching up to 50 Celsius degrees. Good news is that the country has produced air conditioners, not only enough to satisfy the domestic demand, but also sell it abroad. Domestic manufacturers have managed to import $3.6 million worth of air conditioners to 8 countries year to date, figures going up by $2.5 million year on year, the State Statistics Committee reports. Azerbaijan tops the list of importers by purchasing air conditioners worth $2.4 million. Russia comes to second, with imports amounting to $315,900. $304,400 worth ACs were exported to Turkmenistan. Meanwhile, the capital city of Tashkent was the biggest producer of this equipment. Upon the celebration of the World Bicycle Day, a bike ride was held in the Cameron Nature Reserve in Brussels. The event was dedicated to the 30th anniversary of the independence of Central Asian countries and Afghanistan. It was attended by the diplomatic missions of Central Asian countries and Afghanistan and the diplomatic mission of Uzbekistan. The participants of the race noted the positive role and importance of sport in interaction between states and peoples. World Bicycle Day was established by the United Nations in April 2018. Uzbekistan's President Shavkat Mirziyoyev signed a law on ratification of the 187th International Labour Organization's Convention on Fundamentals Promoting Occupational Safety and Health. The convention was adopted at the 95th International Labour Conference in Geneva in June 2006. The Legislative Chamber of Uzbekistan's parliament supported the corresponding law in April this year. The Senate approved this bill in May. The new step of the Republic would help introduce international standards in the area of occupational safety and health, as well as create additional safeguards for workers in the Republic. So far, Uzbekistan has ratified 17 International Labour Conference conventions, including 8 fundamental ones. The Uzbek government has introduced a new ID card system for foreign citizens and stateless persons residing in the country. The measure provided by law is aimed at ensuring their legal status and has a validity period of up to 10 years. The document would contain the biographic and biometric data and be issued to those permanently residing in Uzbekistan. The list includes persons whose Uzbekistan citizenship has been terminated. This special ID system would be applied to foreign investors, their family members, and those granted political asylum status. Besides, persons who haven't completed their qualifying period by retirement age might be considered for social security support following the Cabinet of Ministers decision. The law envisages providing the right to register marriages and divorces on general grounds to ensure the individuals enjoy equal rights and responsibilities in the family as Uzbek citizens. Newborns under 1 year of age would have their identity cards valid for 2 years. Persons under 16 years of age are to be issued 5 years validity IDs. The same rule applies to those under 60 years of age. Persons over 60 will be granted 10-year validity ID cards. The Uzbek government has made a decision to assess the environmental pollution level as a legislative. It has adopted an improved environmental monitoring program for 2021 and 2025.
The document provides for monitoring water resources, sources of air and soil pollution, hazardous exogenous geological processes, flora and fauna, as well as transboundary environmental pollution. The State Environmental Electronic Database monitoring is to be integrated into a single geoinformation database. At the same time, it plans to strengthen the financial and technical base of analytical laboratories and modernize control and measuring equipment. The dust storm swept through Tashkent on May 29 was an unusual condition for the aridless region. Uzhydromet explained that this natural phenomenon began to appear frequently in the capital due to rapid construction, which contributes to the formation of a large amount of sand and dust arising into the air.
The United States is donating 750,000 vaccines to Taiwan as part of Washington's plan to share shots globally. The donation is a major boost for the island, which is struggling with a spike in domestic cases. The announcement was made by U.S. Senator Tammy Duckworth, who along with 2 other senators arrived in Taiwan from South Korea on Sunday. President Tsai Ing-wen said the vaccines would be a great help with their fight against the virus.
We are very grateful to the Biden administration for extending their hands and adding Taiwan to the first batch of vaccines being shared abroad. We also thank the 3 senators who are present here for their great efforts in helping to organise this. The vaccines are timely for Taiwan, and your assistance will be etched on our hearts.
Taiwan reported more than 340 new coronavirus cases on Sunday. Only around 3% of its 23.5 million people have been vaccinated, with most getting only the first shot of 2 needed. Taiwan has complained about China trying to block the island from accessing vaccines internationally. Beijing, which claims the democratically ruled island as its own, denies this. China has offered Taiwan Chinese-made vaccines, but the government in Taipei has repeatedly expressed concern about their safety. On Friday, Japan delivered to Taiwan 1.24 million donated doses of AstraZeneca's coronavirus vaccine.
U.S. Democrats will start the process on Wednesday of preparing an infrastructure bill for a vote in the U.S. House of Representatives, with or without Republican support. U.S. Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg told CBS on Sunday that the latest Republican offer did not meet President Joe Biden's objectives.
Well, we've got to remember that right now the American people are with us. The American people want us to act. They believe in the need to invest in not just roads and bridges, but making sure that it's more affordable to be an American, building up our care infrastructure. And the American people are with us in terms of how we want to pay for this, which is by ensuring that corporations and the wealthy pay their fair share. So we think there is a very strong wind at our back. And we've seen a lot of Republicans, certainly around the country, but also a lot of Republicans in office, state their interest in doing something real on infrastructure. We've just got to see if we can actually get it into enough of an overlapping consensus that we can get a bill done together, because the president strongly prefers a bipartisan approach.
Biden rejected a proposal from the main Republican negotiator, West Virginia Senator Shelley Moore Capito, last week. Republicans proposed $300 billion in new spending to fix roads, bridges, broadband, and other public works. Biden is asking for at least $1 trillion in new spending. He will meet with Capito again on Monday, their 3rd time face-to-face. On the verge of losing his record-long grip on power, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu on Sunday lashed out at his perceived political opponents.
We are witnessing the greatest election fraud in the history of the country. In my opinion, in the history of any democracy.
His language reminiscent of another world leader who recently faced the prospect of losing power.
We had an election that was stolen from us.
It mirrors the rhetoric of former U.S. President Donald Trump, who falsely claims that his 2020 election defeat was the result of fraud.
This was a fraudulent election.
Those claims sparked a deadly assault by Trump supporters who stormed the U.S. Capitol to try to stop Congress from certifying his election loss. And now fears of political violence are bubbling up in Israel. Netanyahu's claims of fraud come just a day after Israel's chief of domestic security issued a rare warning of possible political violence in that country. Shin Bet director Nadav Argaman called on political and religious leaders to tone down potential incitement. Netanyahu is facing the prospect of an end to his 12-year run as premier after Israel's opposition leader Yair Lapid announced last week that he had succeeded in forming a governing coalition. The centrist cobbled together an unwieldy array of factions stretching from ultranationalist to leftist, and even for the first time in Israel's history, an Arab Islamist party. But Lapid's proposed government has yet to be sworn in, and could still unravel before it begins. It will require a simple majority vote in the 120-member Knesset, but that could be more than a week away. Netanyahu has been whipping up outrage at the man expected to replace him as prime minister, Naftali Bennett. Bennett leads an ultra-nationalist party, and he broke his campaign pledge not to join a coalition with Lapid and left-wing and Arab parties. Netanyahu called on Bennett's party members to reject what he's called, quote, a dangerous leftist government.
China's export growth slowed in May. Overseas shipments were hit by a storm of different factors. That includes a global shortage of semiconductors, higher raw material and freight costs, and logistics bottlenecks. A stronger yuan currency also made exports more expensive. Then there were health worries too. Major shipping companies warned of congestion at one key port in Shenzhen after new virus cases were discovered among workers. Factories in industrial hub Guangdong have reported disruption amid enhanced testing and restrictions on movement. Overall, that saw Chinese exports grow 27.9% on the year in May. Analysts had forecast a rise of over 32%. There was a very different set of numbers for imports, which surged by just over 51%. That was the fastest increase in a decade. The jump was driven by strong demand for raw materials. But analysts said the numbers were inflated by surging prices for steel, iron ore, copper and other commodities. That means the May figure reflects a leap in the value of imports, while volumes may even have edged down.
Tesla CEO Elon Musk announced on Sunday the company was no longer going to produce the Model S Plaid Plus. Musk took to Twitter to break the news, tweeting, "Plaid Plus is cancelled. No need, as Plaid is just so good. 0 to 60 miles per hour in under 2 seconds. Quickest production car ever made of any kind. Has to be felt to be believed." The Model S Plaid Plus would have been Tesla's highest-end model with a driving range of 520 miles. It was unveiled at a battery event last year, but production was pushed back from the end of 2021 to 2022. Now it's been pulled altogether, and Tesla is throwing its weight behind the Model S. It was scheduled to be unveiled at an event on June the 3rd, but it's been pushed back a week. That car costs almost $113,000 according to the company's website. Like other automakers, Tesla has increased its vehicle prices as it grapples with supply chain issues and a computer chip shortage.
So far, these have been the latest news for today. Goodbye, take care.